everyone. Welcome back to another kind of brief lecture here. What I'm going to do on this lecture is basically go over what is expected for Lit Review Project number 3 and Lit Review Project number 4 as we are kind of getting closer and closer to the end of the semester. And I'm kind of trying to tie everything together here for you so you understand why we have been doing what we have been doing. So I am going to upload this document today, and I'm also going to upload Lit Review Project 3 today. So I just wanted to kind of go over what Lit Review Project 3 is going to entail. I want to show you why we're doing it. Again, I'm going to use my work to kind of show you the rationale behind what we're doing, so you don't just think that I'm making you do random useless work. As we are trying to instill habits into you as students to be successful in writing, synthesizing, and creating literature, basically, that we can publish or we could use for graduation. If you're a PhD student at UIC, you will have to write several chapters before you present your thesis. And chapter 2 is a lit review. So I'm showing you the steps that we can take to successfully get through the lit review chapter for our PhD and be very organized and very clear about what we are doing. So without further ado, let's talk about what you and your teams will be doing for Lit Review Project 3. So for this next section, we are going to do two things. I will highlight things here. We are going to create a lit review grid. And if you don't know what that is, I will show you. And we are going to do an outline. So last week, I had mentioned that it's really important that we start to develop an outline, just like it's really important we start to develop an abstract and we kind of fill in the blanks with the information we don't have. It's really important that we start to think about a title, because all of these things are going to overlap. They all have to be related to one another in order for your document to make sense. So here's what I need you and your team members to do first. So with the Lit Review Grid, this is a structural tool, and we use it to organize and summarize key information from multiple papers. So what this is essentially you taking all of the information that you found most relevant from the SJOD sheets and now plugging it into a grid, or more appropriately, an Excel sheet. I have one that I'm going to show you that's very complicated. That's just how my brain works. It's probably not the best thing to emulate. But I'm also going to show you a very simple one on this paper, on this document as well. So this serves as a concise overview of each study. Okay, so we're checking our work here. We're making sure that the SJODs that we extracted information from, we're making sure they're usable. We're making sure they follow a theme. We're making sure that they overlap the question that we're trying to ask with our lit review paper. We're making sure that all of these documents are moving in the same direction, which is to construct a lit review paper. So each entry in the grid typically includes important details like study reference, design, sample characteristics, key findings, and significance of results. That is the basics. And when we're using this for a lit review, it's going to streamline very important concepts. It's going to avoid us rereading documents. And I know you guys aren't doing a very big one right now. Your lit review is not going to have a tremendous amount of papers, but the one I'm working on right now has 200 papers. And sometimes I do reread documents and I forgot that I read them. So that's why I have my SJOD sheets. That's why I have a lit review grid. I'm keeping track of everything that I have done, and we are identifying papers and gaps and themes across the study. So we want to make sure that the papers are referring or referencing our question. We want to make sure it's matching our themes, and we want to make sure that all of these are contributing to the studies to help us structure our final review paper. So here's just a couple more, a couple of more offerings on it. This part is pretty intensive. You might have been doing this already. Some people do it on a Word document. Some people do it within a binder. I'm showing you how I would like you to do it so that when you submit your Lit Review project number 3 to me, I have documentation of all the papers you're using so that when I go to read your papers for your final exam, I can follow along with your works cited and I can cross-reference with the Lit Review grid. So this grid is a tool for you, but it is also a tool for me. You can kind of read all of this. I'm just telling you what I'm looking for in this Lit Review grid. Now, the other thing I want you to do with your teammates for this project is I want you to do an outline, and I would like that outline to have some moderate detail in it, okay? If you do not know what you're going to talk about in the methods section, I would like you to do the best that you can to fill in the blanks so that I can better understand the direction that you are going. I have been a part of this journey with you from the start. All of the slides that I have been making for the lectures have been based upon all the information you have been presenting to me through the lit circles. So it's kind of been like a call and response sort of relationship. You guys are picking the papers, you're writing the SJODs, you're presenting, I'm responding by making lectures that are tailored around what you guys are presenting on. So you can read this, a Lit Review outline. Basically, you know what an outline is. I showed you my outline last week. And I would like this document, this Lit Review project, to have a grid and an outline. And I'm not going to be super tedious about how the outline works. The outline is more for you than it is for me, but I just want you to start thinking about how we're going to start putting all this stuff together. So back to the Lit Review grid. So here's an example and specific task that I would like to see. Most importantly, when conducting this task, please use your research question, potential titles, and themes. Please keep those things in mind, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. So I would like you to think about your research question. I would like you to think about the potential titles and themes, and you're presenting information. So when you write and you organize your grid or your outline, that you maintain a logical flow that guides readers, most importantly, me, from the general background information to more specific details, right? That's why I said this grid is kind of for me, but I'm also going to, when I'm looking at your final document, I am going to have your SJOD sheets. I am going to have your grid. I'm going to have your abstract. I'm going to have your outline, and these things all will overlap. Now, if you've noticed on the grading so far, I have been giving you full credit just based upon completion. Have you done what I asked? 99.9% of you have done everything I've asked, and you've been submitting everything that I asked for in these folders. Okay? I've looked through them, I've graded them, I've watched your presentations, I've given you grades on completion of these tasks. But this is very important. When I sit down to grade your final Lit Review paper, I am going to have everything you have submitted in front of me. I will have printed everything out, and I am going to give you a grade based upon the following factors. Does your SJOD sheets appear on your Lit Review grid? So the things that you've presented on, we're going to have a total of 5. Are they present, and have you been moving in that direction? I'm going to grade you on the title of your document. Does that title encompass the papers that you've presented on your Lit Review grid, which are a representation of your SJOD sheets? Okay? Are the themes that are all present aligning? So for example, if you're talking about envisioning success with athletes, and I look at your SJOD sheets and you're talking about envisioning success in children, well, there's going to be a problem. So what I'm looking for right now is that everything you have conducted to this point in this class, everything you have presented on, is all overlapping and moving in the direction of creating a document. So like I said, I will have all of these things in front of me, and your final grade, your final exam grade, which will be your lit review paper, will be graded upon all of the work that you've conducted thus far, and does it align with what you presented at the end of the semester. And for the most part, I'm not worried about it. I think you're all doing a fantastic job, and I think we're hitting the mark. So here is an example of a review grid. Okay. I told you that I would like to see some sort of grid that has this information. And I kind of put that information up here. I said, does it have these essential pieces of information, such as independent variables, dependent variables, right? I presented a whole lecture on dependent and independent variables. I have given you a homework assignment on independent and dependent variables. I have provided you with one-way and two-way ANOVA lectures that talk about dependent and independent variables. So now I'm asking you to please provide that information. Can you identify the independent and the dependent variables in the papers that you have been working with for your presentation? So I'm asking you for references. So give me the name, study design. Is it cross-sectional? Is it crossover design? Who are the sample? Who are the individuals in this study? You can see an N of 18,000. That's a big one. An N of 11. Right? What is the independent variable in that study? What is the dependent variable in that study? What are the main findings? Where are the results? Were the results statistically significant? And I just kind of put some information in here just to kind of help you with that. Now, after I make this grid, I also am going to update my works cited or my references. So this is what you need to do for your grid. You need to provide me with the papers that you've looked at so far. You need to put them all within a grid. You're going to submit that for me with this assignment. You're also going to update your references. And to be honest, I truly don't care if you do AMA, if you do Chicago, if you do APA. Everything I do, I use endocrinology citations, and I use their format for the Endocrinology Society. That's just what I use. Whatever you are used to doing is okay with me. I will figure out what format you have used. So now I'm asking you that when you submit this project number 3, you have 10 papers that you have identified so far that you put in this lit review grid. So I am going to receive a grid from you that has 10 papers and has 10 references in any format that you are comfortable with. That will be the first part of this project. And then you are going to provide me with an outline, which will be the second portion of this project. And with the outline, you look at introduction, themes and categories, critical analysis, gaps in the literature, conclusion. There's several ways to skin this cat. I just want to see what direction you are going in with the paper. What is your introduction? What is your abstract? I asked you to write that abstract. What are you reviewing in this document? You're going to tell me the methods you used. Well, we've selected 10 papers. We looked at this. Then you're going to tell me your results. What did you find in those 10 papers? Then you're going to talk about the discussion. Why is this significant? What is the relevance of this? And then future directions, right? That is what the outline is going to entail. So this is Lit Review project number 3, and we are quickly moving towards the final steps, which is going to be Lit Review project number 4. Now, before I show you Lit Review project number 4, let me show you something really quick so you can see why I'm having you do this, and I'm not just making you have busy work. So here is an example of my lit review grid that I'm currently doing for my lit review paper. I have author, I have PMID, I have the year, I have the title, I have the samples, right? Who are the samples? N equals what? Intervention, measured variables, performance, and I also have this thing called stressors. Since I'm looking at neuromuscular and neuroendocrine and immune dysfunction, I have color coordination where every paper has a certain color which tells me what that paper is focusing about. So if I look at this paper right here, and it is focusing on field training and the alterations in endocrine function and hormone secretion. Well, I leave myself a little breadcrumb trail that says, okay, well, Brian, this paper is focusing on sleep restriction. There's that color. Purple, which is hormonal imbalances. Green, which is calorie restriction. And this orange here, which is urine. This is telling me that they measured it. Oh, I'm sorry, not orange. I'm not urine. I'm sorry. Orange is rest restriction. So I'm leaving myself little colors that is telling me what this paper was about, so that when I quickly look at this reference, I go, oh, okay, this one's about sleep restriction, hormonal imbalances, calorie restriction, and rest restriction. And then if I look down here at the next one, if I look at this paper from 2018, it tells me what the title was. It tells me who the subjects were, their ages. This told me what the intervention was. This was prolonged military field training. And then what were the measures? Well, they looked at serum insulin-like growth factor 1. They looked at TNF-alpha, which is an inflammatory marker. They looked at interleukins, IL-6, which is also an inflammatory marker. They looked at creatine kinase, which is a marker of muscle degradation and muscle injury that appears in the blood. And I basically left myself a little color chart here saying that, okay, well, when you come back and look at this paper, this one is referring to inflammation, sleep restriction, calorie restriction, and this one would be work strain and physical training. So I'm leaving myself all of these breadcrumbs, and you can see that I have a lot of documents that I'm looking at so far, okay? So not only am I making a grid, or have I made a grid, I also started making tables. And this is very similar to what I'm asking you to do. So if I come over here and I look at this is my neuroendocrine section. I'm looking at the PMID, the references, the N size, the intervention, the deployment time, what biofluids they measured, so saliva, serum and saliva, what stressors, acute stress, food and sleep deprivation, what were the effects? Here's all the hormonal dysregulation. I have another one for neuromuscular, and I have another one for inflammation. So I'm doing the exact same thing that you guys are doing, and I'm making these grids so that I have, let's go back, which organizes and summarizes my key findings from multiple search papers, right? I just showed you what that's for. And this is an overview of each study. This prevents me from rereading. It keeps my themes aligned. Well, how do you know my themes are aligned? Well, because I just showed you how my themes were aligned. I went over here and I said, hey, I have neuroendocrine, I have neuromuscular, and I have inflammatory modulation. So I am keeping my themes very, very organized. And on this same database, I want to show you something. I have my search terms, just like I asked you guys to do, right? So here are my mesh terms. Here are my alternative search terms. I have them over here for physical fitness, right? Here's exercise, physical performance, physical effort, occupational effort, muscle strength. Here's all the mesh terms, right? These are all alternatives for each other. Here's another one talking about sleep deprivation, stress psychology complications. I come over here. Here's all my consequences, right? Hormonal modulation. Here's all my mesh words. So I'm doing, right, catecholamine adverse effects, growth hormone in the blood, growth hormone immunology, growth hormone metabolism. I'm doing everything I asked you guys to do. And now all of my work is very, very organized. So again, here's my grid. Here's my tables. Here's more data I collected. Here's just another example of my grids. So again, you can see here that I have the author, the PMID, the year, the title, the participants, the intervention. I have my themes very, very, very organized up top here. And I'm even identifying in color what is bad and what is good. So you guys can look. I'm doing the exact same thing, but I'm also leaving myself notes, right? You see how I leave myself notes over here so that when I go to write this paper, which I'm already almost done with, I have every piece of data I need right in front of me because I created this lit review grid. So that is all I have for you on the Lit Review Project 3. I just uploaded when Lit Review Project 3 is due. I'm giving you plenty of time. So again, you have to make a literature review grid, only using 10 papers for this one, and you have to do an overall outline telling me which direction you are going with the outline, and also maybe filling in some of the blanks on things you don't or you haven't thought about yet for your outline. So this will be due, I think I put it for 3 weeks, but now let's move on to Lit Review Project 4. All right, so this is Lit Review Project 4, which is the final literature review paper. And all this is doing is asking you now, as a team, to start putting everything together. So you have selected papers, you have presented on the papers, you had created themes, you had asked what you want your lit review paper to be about. You have found alternative words and mesh terms to help you sift through the literature. You've done presentations to demonstrate your themes and to demonstrate what your paper is going to be about. You have listened to my lectures on certain types of statistical analysis and why they've done it. We've talked about independent variables and dependent variables. We've talked about correlations. We talked about ANOVAs. We've talked about hypotheses and null hypotheses. We've talked about all this stuff over the course of the semester, and the entire time I have been forcing you to create a breadcrumb trail to help you get to this point. And now we're here. So for this final project, it has 4 parts, and I've told you how many pages each part is. Now, you will have to write an introduction, which is going to be your first page and your first paragraph. And I basically give you a bullet points here on exactly what you can write about. If you just answer each one of these bullet points with your own sentence, you essentially have your introduction. And I'm also telling you that you only need 10 articles. Well, that's awfully convenient, because on that last presentation that he was talking about with the lit review grid, he said 10 articles. Oh, that makes sense. And this guy made us present 5 times. We made 5 videos, or we made 3 videos, and we presented twice live, 5 papers. Oh, so he was forcing us to do half the work before we even got to this point. Yes, that's exactly what I was doing. I've been forcing you to kind of collect this information and to solidify it, so that now that we're here, now all you got to do is put all these puzzle pieces together to make a picture. Your second paragraph, you have to start building the rationale for your research question. You can just answer these questions. If you just answer each one of these questions in a sentence, the paragraph will write itself. Third paragraph, again, remember, we're still in the introduction, right? This is 1 page. So the first page has to have 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. And then I'm asking you to further emphasize the significance of your topic, state your research question as a clear statement. And then I even put you here. What is the relationship between snacking and the body weight among adults, right? So I even give you an example. Discussion. So pages 3 through 4, you present all of the evidence you gathered for responding to your question. Okay? You all have your own question. You have identified that question on your lit review project number 1 and number 2. You have created a lit review grid surrounding that question. And this is going to be the hardest section to write, but it's not going to be that hard because you've already done the SJOD sheets. You've already pulled out everything you need to write this, right? It's all in front of you. And I just give you a couple of explanations on what you can do. And then the last one is your conclusion. This is a half a page. So essentially, you're only writing about, 1, for it's only 5.5 pages. That's it. That's all I'm asking you to do. And then I'm asking you to do your references, which you've already done on the previous exercise, right? On the Lit Review project number 3, you've already done it. And I'm telling you that you can either use the AMA or you can use the APA style for citations. Here's an example of those. And here is just telling you about the formatting and the spelling and the paraphrasing. And then here is a rubric for you. Now, do keep in mind, okay, you will have several weeks to work on this with your team members. I am going to let you basically the class before Thanksgiving start working on this. I want to give you ample time to work on this. I don't want this to interfere with other final exams because I know how stressful that is. And I'm trying to give you the opportunity to get this submitted before your final exams even start. And you're in teams of 2 and 3, so this really isn't that much work. What I am going to warn you about, though, is I do not want anyone using any sort of AI when writing this paper. We do have software where we will plug this information, your paper, into a software to tell us if it was generated via computer or if this is your own writing. So please, please do not put you or me in that situation where I have to reach out and say, hey, guess what? This came back. I'm giving you plenty of time. I want you using your own brain. I want you writing in your own voice. And what should essentially happen is, since there's 2 or 3 of you in a team, I should see 3 different styles of writing, 3 different styles of sentence structure and phrasing. And if I don't see that, that will be the first red flag that says that AI has been used. So please don't put me in that situation. This is why I have been giving you full credit on everything that you have submitted, because I want you to get to this point where now you have to put it together. This is what I am grading you on. So this will be uploaded with project number 3. And if you look at the calendar that I had just uploaded onto our Blackboard, you will see that you have ample time. Let me get it. Let me pull it out and show it to you. So here is our remainder of the semester. And I show you here, we have our Lit Circle due Thursday, which is today. Your Lit Review project number 2, which is your abstract and your introduction, that's due on Tuesday. And then take a look at this. We have one more Lit Circle. So we have done 5 papers together as a group. So you should easily have your first 5 papers on your Lit Review grid with those references updated. And I'm sure many of you have more than 5, but we've already done half the work and you've presented on half the papers. So if you look here, starting from 11:14 all the way to 12:05, I am letting you work on your Lit Review project so that we do not have to take a final. And I'm giving you this much time in good faith that you are going to write this and not use any sort of AI to help you write this. Like I said, I will be able to tell immediately with the phrasing, with the wording. I will be able to tell immediately with the cohesiveness of it with 2 different writers, and all of your papers will be submitted into a software which will tell us, if that tool was used. So please, please, please don't do it. So I will take the Lit Review project on the 10th, but you can turn it in way before that. So if you guys finish this thing over Thanksgiving break, you are done with me. Your Lit Review project is done, but I'm giving you plenty of time to knock this out of the park because there is going to be so much weight on your final grade with this paper. So that is all I have for you, and I hope this all makes sense, and I hope you realize why I had to kind of reformulate this class and write it the way I did, because I basically had you guys mimic the way I wrote a paper over the summer. So I will see you guys shortly, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.